Michael Anthony is a terrible something to you, Eddie Van Halen, forever saying that about Mikey. When Michael Anthony suddenly stepped away from Van Halen, the entire rock world exploded with confusion. Fans everywhere demanded answers. Was there serious tension brewing behind closed doors? Had that legendary brotherhood everyone admired finally begun to crack? No one truly knew what was happening. But one thing was obvious. Something big had gone down. Even after leaving, Michael never threw shade at his former bandmates. He stayed calm, stayed respectful, and kept touring worldwide with new projects that proved he still had the fire. Fans were torn. Many supported both Van Halen and Michael's new ventures, hoping the split was simply a peaceful move toward fresh beginnings. But now, at 70 years old, Michael Anthony is no longer holding back. He's finally opening up about Eddie Van Halen, and what he's sharing is sending shockwaves through the rock community. This isn't rumor or drama. This is history being re-examined in real time. Long before fame and chaos, Michael's journey began in an unexpected place, with a trumpet. Rock music wasn't even on his radar at first, but by the age of 13, something changed inside him. The pull of rock and roll hit hard, and he knew he needed a new direction. He once explained that he wanted to stand out. All his friends were playing guitar or drums, so he decided to pick up the bass instead. That single decision changed his entire life. It placed him directly in the orbit of two brothers who were already making noise in Pasadena, Eddie and Alex Van Halen. Back then, they were tearing up the local scene under the name Mammoth, filling school dances and small clubs with their explosive sound. Then came one night that changed everything. Michael's band and Mammoth were booked for the same high school show, but disaster struck when the Van Halen brothers' PA system failed right before their set. Michael remembered offering his band's equipment without hesitation. It was simply the right thing to do. That small act of generosity stuck with Eddie and Alex. So when Mammoth's bassist Mark Stone eventually left, they remembered the guy who had helped them out and could sing like crazy. Not long after, they invited Michael to jam, and it instantly felt right. Michael later said it felt like they'd been playing together forever. That lineup would go on to rewrite rock history. David Lee Roth brought wild charisma. Eddie unleashed guitar work no one had ever heard before. Alex drove the rhythm with relentless power. And Michael anchored it all with thunderous bass and soaring backing vocals. They weren't just a band. They were a force. Those early days were pure magic. Michael later reflected that it was just four guys who loved playing music together. There was no fame, no money, no pressure yet. Just passion. Soon, Van Halen took over Los Angeles. Their shows at the Whiskey A Go-Go became legendary. Even without a record deal, they ruled the scene. When their debut album dropped in 1978, it hit like a lightning bolt. Michael Anthony's bass lines and high harmonies became a secret weapon, shaping the band's signature sound. Songs like Running with the Devil and Ain't Talkin' About Love became anthems. Former manager Noel Monk later pointed out that while Eddie's guitar rightly got attention, Michael's bass and vocals were the glue that held everything together. Without that foundation, Eddie couldn't have soared the way he did. The album sold over 10 million copies in the US alone. Overnight, Van Halen became global superstars. Bigger stages, louder amps, and insane crowds followed. For Michael, it felt like a dream come true. They were brothers, he said. They traveled together, partied together, and created together. Felt unstoppable. And for a while it was. Album after album dominated the charts. Van Halen 2, Women and Children First, Fair Warning, Diver Down, and then 1984. Their hit Jump was everywhere. MTV couldn't stop playing their videos. They defined rock domination. But success brought shadows. Behind the scenes, cracks started forming. Egos clashed. Creative differences grew. Pressure mounted. The bond they once trusted began to weaken. Something dark was creeping in, and no one could stop it. Then came the contract, the moment that changed everything. In 1984, at the height of their power, Michael was pulled aside backstage before a show. Former manager Noel Monk later described it as a setup. Michael was handed contracts that would strip him of songwriting credits and ownership, even retroactively. Signing meant losing royalties from the very album that had made them legends. Michael later said he felt trapped. Either sign or risk the entire tour collapsing. Thousands of fans were waiting. The pressure was overwhelming. With his bandmates watching, he signed. That moment shattered the brotherhood. Millions in future earnings disappeared, but worse than the money was the betrayal. Michael admitted it hurt, realizing he may never have been seen as an equal. Still, he stayed professional. He didn't speak out. He kept performing. But the trust was gone. In 1985, David Lee Roth left the band. Sammy Hagar stepped in, launching a new era that brought massive success. But old wounds never healed. By the late 1990s, Michael's role was reduced. On Van Halen 3, he barely played. On Best of Both Worlds, Eddie handled the bass himself. Then, in 2006, Michael learned he was out of the band through an online article. No call. No warning. He'd been replaced by Eddie's son, Wolfgang. Michael respected Wolfgang's talent, but the way it happened crushed him. Fans were furious. To them, Michael was the soul of Van Halen. His bass, his voice, his presence mattered. Instead of lashing out, Michael chose dignity. He focused on new music. Sammy Hagar called, and together they reignited their chemistry with the other half, then Chickenfoot, and later Sammy Hagar and the Circle. For the first time in years, Michael felt respected and free. No contracts, no ego battles, just music. When Eddie Van Halen passed away in 2020, everything changed. All the anger vanished. Michael remembered the brother he once had. They never reconciled, and that truth hurt deeply. But healing came through an unexpected place, Wolfgang. When Wolfgang invited Michael to see Mammoth WVH perform, something shifted. They connected. They talked. They shared grief. Through Wolfgang, Michael found peace. Now, at 70, Michael Anthony is still on stage, playing with heart and soul. Every note feels like a conversation with Eddie. Maybe that's the real tribute. Not words, but music. The same music that built them, broke them, and ultimately bound them forever. Was Michael Anthony's emotional honesty about Eddie Van Halen surprising to you? What does it say about fame, friendship, and forgiveness? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into rock history.